Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Quarter Horse Customs. We have Project Apocalypse back on the lift again. Oops. It never really left. Anyway, I want to go over some electrical stuff with you guys in case one of you guys is wanting to build a race car, street car, or just take a Foxbody that was just completely bare and try to put it back on the road. So we're going to jump right into electrical. I do apologize that I didn't make a video last week. It was just too hot to make the little minion stay out in the garage. Right? It's too hot. Got anything to say? Good enough. So one of the biggest things for a race car is you got to be able to kill the entire car from an isolator switch. And that means the car should be completely running, driving, whatever, headlights, whatever. But you should be able to come back to this switch, turn it off, and it kill everything in the car. And I know a lot of confusion happens with this switch right here, mainly because of the alternator. So first, let's cover how that works. So first things first, your entire electrical system is obviously going to come from the battery. Now, this is just a temporary battery. I got at AutoZone, it was on sale. My buddy Mike hooked me up. It was like 60 bucks for a brand new battery. Terminals will flip to the wrong side for what most people want to do. So I made it with some slacks. So when I do get an AGM in here, this can run up here and this can run over there. Everything's happy. Anyway, as you see, we have two wires here. I have a massive wire coming out from my main power to the switch. This is directly to the on-off switch. This is my alternator wire coming straight to the battery. Now what that means is when the power runs out into here, around, and to my switch, even if the alternator is charging this wire, when this switch is isolated, the entire car is isolated as well. Now you can hook your alternator wire here to your main battery lug if that's what you want to do. I might have not measured and cut twice. First, second, or third, and well, I didn't have enough wire, so it went to the battery. Anyway, whether that's the way you want to do it, or whether you want to hook it up to the battery, alternator needs to stay on this side of the switch, so the car is all powered off of this side. So when the switch is on, power is now going through here to here. But now when the switch is off, when the engine's dying down, oh, hey, look, a socket. Oh, I was missing that guy. The alternator is still spinning when the engine's dying down. So instead of it just taking over and powering the car, it's still trapped on just the battery side. So sure, I mean, it can charge the battery up a little more. Not really going to do much, but at least it doesn't, keep the car running. So as soon as the switch is off, kills the whole car. That's probably one of the most important things when you're wiring a car, because if you're drag racing and tech says, hey, we're going to kill the car from the switch, and it doesn't kill it, you're probably not passing tech. Power's coming from the battery up to our switch. Our switch is now on. The way I like to do it is, you see that little light up there? On, off, on. I like to have that little light up there because I have some friends and some relations, wife, who thinks it's absolutely hilarious if we just turn the car off right when I'm going to try to start it up. So I'm like, we need more power, Cotton! Nope, battery's off. So I like that little LED up there, just so I know what the heck is going on. Once you have power on in the car, only certain switches do anything. For instance, my electric fans, those will work. My interior lights, yes, we have a working map light in a Foxbody-ish. And my light back there, I need to be able to see, we got to be able to read the list of where we're going. Other than that, every one of these other switches is all reliant on key power. Now once I turn the key on, we're woken. Everything does its things. All the gauges go home. Who to what to where. Now we have things like MSD, fuel pump. That'll one day, I think, be electric water pump if we decide to go to one. And this switch is going to be for the wife because she has some fun things that she wants to do to the car later. And if you're a tech guy, I need you to go ahead and look away because that doesn't exist. That's just an auxiliary for like cigarette lighters. Actually, it's my starting switch, but I hardly ever use that. But sometimes the neutral safety switch and the clutch pedal sometimes it just doesn't do the thing. Anyway, so let's say you're driving down the road. Let's just pretend that this is the fuel pump. Okay, you got everything on, you're running, driving, turn the key off, boom. Car's dead. We don't have any MSD, we don't have any fuel, we don't have any electric water pump. Everything dies from the key. So basically, if you don't have my key, you can't start my car. I mean, I know you can hot wire it or whatever if you can figure out what the heck I did. Now we've also got some of the regular amenities too. You know, we got turn signals. We got headlights. I did put some diodes back behind here. So the headlights and the marker lights all run into a little GM diode. I can put the part number in the comments if you're interested in that. Fuse holder and a little diode that goes in, and that just keeps the power flowing one way, so when you turn on the brights, it's not backfeeding through, turning on all the lights, and you only have brights, yada, yada, yada. So that is how I did that. Just a nice little combination switch. And we have a bright light indicator. Tack light works, gauge lights work, marker lights work. This is our actual start button here. But, like I said, unless the clutch pedal's pushed. What? Oh, wait. Key's not on. Turn the key on. Hit the button. What the? Oh, wait, that's right. Neutral safety switch. Clutch pushed in. Button. Key on. Now we can do the thing. Now I'll get down and I'm going to show you the fuse panel. Don't judge. It's very rough wiring. I plan on yanking this all out after drag week over winter. And I'm going to make everything modular with connectors. And, you know, right now I'm running out of time. And this thing's still on the lift. And we just bled brakes like yesterday. Which actually went surprisingly well, if I'm going to be honest. One more thing before I show you the fuse panel. What I like doing is I like the factory switches. Don't mind that I don't have a turn signal thing here yet. If you have any ideas on what I can put here, let me know, because this is my turn signals. But when I pull back on this, it's actually engaging my two-step. So I have it wired up. I pinned out this connector. It shows me what goes in, power goes in, and what power comes out. So this is actually my two-step. And this is actually my line lock. So there's my light. So I know when my line lock's on. I don't have buttons in the steering wheel, so I use these guys. Did it in the Reaper, works great. I will show you how I figured that out. So in order to make those switches work like factory in the car, I had to go through and figure out what's where, who, why, how, what connectors do the things. So here's on the Reaper Stang. I had to borrow the headlight switch, but you can kind of see how I just have jumper leads going into the back of the connectors. So that's all I'm using. I'm actually using the factory plugs on the factory switches. But other than that, as soon as it leaves that switch, it's tied into another wire and it comes completely different. Besides mapping out how you want to wire your car, the hardest part, if you're going to try to use the factory connectors like that, is trying to figure out what does what and why. You can open up one of the Chilton books or Haynes books, and I guess they have like words and things, and it tells you who goes where. And you can just flip through like 37 pages and try to figure out what's doing where. But I found it easier to print off from the website. If you want this website, I can go back and find it out. But I really like this. So, for example, one of the ones we did use was this setup right here on steering column. I believe this is the turn signal switch right here. So it tells me all the colors of wires that are going into what part of what connector, because there's two of them. And you can come over here, and you have your turn signal switch, C406, matches with C406. So now you can run through on what wires are going where, why, and how. And that is what I based my connections off of to use those parts of the factory connectors to make my own harness. Now, technically, I have two fuse panels in this car. I have a forward fuse panel, which runs, window fuse, MSD, fuel, all my switches, my gauges, my fan relays. Basically, everything that's in the front of the car is run off the front fuse panel. And then I have one in the back that runs, fuel pump, We'll have a nitrous fuel pump eventually. We'll have a nitrous bottle warmer. Basically anything that's in the back of the car. Brake lights, I run through a relay because I don't want the load on the wire, because when I wired this, I used a factory taillight harness that I spliced in the connector up underneath the dash into my wiring harness. But I use most of those wires as trigger wires. That way the load isn't really there, because that's part of the problem with this old wiring harnesses is they can't handle the load anymore. So that's just one of those things I did for a little bit extra safety, and I don't have to worry about it. So here is our rear fuse panel. This is just a $20 fuse block from Amazon. And you see I gave you 4 relay places. And then I just got this little terminal thing here. In case I ever need to add to it, pop in a fuse, pop in a wire connector right there at the bottom. Really modular, that's what I was trying for. This is my fuel pump relay. This will be my brake light relay. So I have plenty of room to add more stuff later. Definitely back here. And this just has a wire running around. This orange wire right here runs right to my car side switch. So again, battery alternator side, car side, completely isolated. Now, like I said, it is a mess down here. So again, I have another one of those little $20 fuse panels. Came with the relays. This one's not used yet. So I've got my starter. So when you flick one of those, either the supposedly not actually there bypass switch or the starter button, it sends power to this relay to send 12 volts to the starter trigger on the starter relay. Actually, I should have also started the car power actually comes into here, into this distribution block, which is out of a 90 Chevy pre-95, pre-Vortec. So I just have that running off there. And then that actually, this wire here is going straight into the starter. So power will come in, go straight to the starter. And that's that. I have various fuses for MSD box, interior lights. There's a label somewhere the wife made. But I mean, it's just a very simple design. And then I did throw an extra terminal block up here because it was just easier to have my relay outputs coming up here. That way, if I have to make a bypass or jump something, I can do it on the side of the road. Got another one of those terminal strips here. Power will come through into the flasher, out of the flasher. So whether I'm using the left or the right, power is going through and it's doing this. So that's done like that. Very simple. I mean, it can be a hassle to try to figure out how you want to do stuff. Again, I do have to come in and actually clean all this crap up, but I will get there eventually. Power wire is coming straight out from that terminal block, which is down here. Comes straight out, snakes in, runs to this little terminal stud here, which then runs to my starter. And then my starter actual trigger is actually hooked up to this little 1-pin connector. That way, if I got to pull the motor out or if I got to change starters or anything in that regard, I'm not sitting down there trying to run an extension. I mean, I guess it's not that big of an issue with the tubular K member, but with a stock K member, that sucks. That starter is in a very bad spot. So I went ahead and I just make this up. It's really nice, makes this whole system really modular. You're not fighting down there next to the K member. I think it just ends up making it a lot cleaner. Alternator wire is ran directly to the alternator. Like I said, this wire will run all the way back to the car, straight to the battery. So it's completely isolated from the rest of the... Hey, look, there's those washers Eleanor took off with. I need those. So it's completely isolated from the rest of the car. Our MSD wiring is really simple. It's all wrapped up in this harness here, along with our ground. So here's our ground, comes off, then I have a ground going straight to the alternator, so that way it has plenty of ground. So it runs right over, boom, thread insert, grounded. Sadly, I already had this one in and decided to make a different one, just to make everything a little cleaner. This is for the electric fans. I made the electric fans so they are modular. Boom, I undo this connector, bam. Unplugs. In case you're wondering, I got this from O'Reilly's. I don't think it was that bad of price. And seriously cool that I can just unhook that, unbolt the radiator, undo the hoses, and the whole thing comes out, put it back in, plug it back in, done. MSD box is wired up over here. Here's our computer harness. Yep, that's it. That drives the whole car. You know, thanks to that one, you know, I might put a zip tie around that to make sure it doesn't get unplugged again. Here's something fun that I decided to do. You don't have to do it by any means, but I personally found out this helps a lot. So I actually threw some gauges up in my cowl vent. I've got a mini tack, oil pressure gauge, and water temp gauge. Now, I don't want to be on the side of the road. You know, we're broke down, 2-lane blacktop right here. We got cars flying by, right? I'm not going to try to be sitting here going, what's the idle at? What's the temperature at? Or, you know, some of them cars with the big cams, you know, it's running. You got your buddy talking, trying to talk over the car. It's blah, 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 blah. You know, what's RPM at? It's 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 9, 7, 8. I don't know. You can just monitor everything right here. And if we come in here, turn on our switch, turns on all of our lights, ba-boom, lit up for nighttime. So that is going to help me tremendously, hopefully on a dry week. Hopefully I don't need to mess with it, but whether I'm breaking in, you know, trying to get the thermostat to open, or whether I'm worried about oil pressure or anything like that. And another little fun thing I did is I put in my PSI gauge for my airbags, and it also is hooked up to the marker lights because it was dark out. I can see it. So have my airbag fillers right here. I can monitor the pressure, and I can see it from here. As long as there's enough juice left in this car, let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see how it sounds real quick. And I can show you just how easy it is to kill this car from the back. All right. Some juice. Key has to be on. Let's prime the fuel pump. MSD ignition on. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Come on. Ain't got enough juice. Well, sadly, she's fighting me really hard on the starting. Battery's dead. We had some alternator issues. Speaking of alternators, when I did this, I wanted to run a 1-wire alternator. So I got a GM 12SI 94 amp. If you do run the 12SI alternator, you're gonna have to make a jumper wire to actually excite it. That's the whole reason the battery's dead. We were running it, trying to get, you know, messing with RPM, trying to get it to excite, and it wouldn't. So had to make this little jumper wire. It's, hey, hello, I'm on, start charging. So probably gonna take the battery up to O'Reilly's, have them throw it up on the charger. So hopefully they don't boil it. But at least I'm gonna go ahead and simulate if the car was running. All those switches are on. So the car's running. Blah, 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 blah. Oh no, gotta turn it off. Boom. Dead. Whole car is shut down. Just like that. All right, so let's say you're at the racetrack, right? We're gonna do power on. Come in here. Give it a couple squirts. Key on. But if I want to kill it, and boom, just like that, one flip of the switch, the entire car is dead. So that's how your car needs to be set up. Before you go to tech, make sure that happens. If it doesn't work that way, you need to look back into that little switch. So only thing left I have to hook up is the speedometer cable. Well, the speedometer wire, I had to actually call it EQs, however you say their name. I called them just to make sure I had the setup right, and I found out I have to ground the one side and just give the signal to the other side. Once that's done, wiring in this car is going to be done. Then I can start doing things with the front clip, and then we can start working on decals. Here she is. She runs. We have power running to almost everything. Things are talking to things. Things are communicating. I still need to put a little zip tie right here from a little somebody who likes to unplug it. But yeah, here she is. Well, I think that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Just kind of give you a quick understanding of how things are talking to who and why and where, and some things you need to look out for if you're trying to stay tech approved. So with that, we're going to go ahead and shut this baby down. I'll see you next time.